The fact that I was inclined to include books in this video that I haven't read yet because I've conditioned myself to love them already is insane. Hello book reading friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Melanie and today I bring you books you need to read this fall. And I say this because these books just give me the biggest fall vibes, whether it's because they are very atmospheric or because they are darker reads that are perfect for this time of year. If you have yet to subscribe to my channel, you can do so down below for more bookish content. I am constantly uploading book reviews, book recommendations, and I'm sure you don't want to miss any of that because we're also almost at 1,000, which is insane to me. But if I start talking about it, it'll just turn into like an hour-long letter to you guys, and that is also an entirely separate video. You can also follow me on all of my social medias, which are always linked down below. I have an Instagram, Twitter, Goodreads, and an Amazon wishlist. The first book that resurfaced instantly, because there is no fall without this book, and it is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I don't think I give this book enough love in this channel, and I just need it to be out there. Crescent City is Sarah's first adult fantasy. I always get it twisted because this book says Crescent City in the biggest, boldest letters, but the actual name of the book is House of Earth and Blood. In House of Earth and Blood, we follow Bryce Quinlan, who is half fae, half human, and she pretty much leads the perfect life. By her standards, she is working hard by day and partying all night, and she does not have any troubles with them boys because she be picking all of them up. Her world is now shattered, however, after a big tragedy happens, and she finds herself in the midst of a crime investigation alongside fallen angel Hunt Athalar. As demons start wreaking havoc in the city, and with all of these investigations going on, Bryce and Hunt are thrust into this new world of trying to work together to find the murderer in this crime, and everything just turns into pure chaos. This book has some steamy romance, some good mystery aspect to it, lots of fantasy and paranormal elements because we are not only seeing fae, but we are also seeing a lot of vampires and werewolves and fallen angels and demons. And for me at least, it was such a fast read, and the ending of this book completely destroyed me. This really wouldn't be a fall recommendations video without this book, and I am talking about The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I do have a reading vlog up for this book, so I will leave it linked down below in case you want to check it out. This book came out yesterday because today is October 7th and I can finally be free and talk about it. And in this book, we follow Addie LaRue, who in the 1700s in France makes a Faustian bargain where she basically trades her soul for immortality. Now, the only catch to this deal was that she could have immortality and she could live as long as she wanted, but nobody would remember her name. She would go throughout history completely unknown. And it'll be 300 years before she walks into a hidden bookstore and somebody finally remembers her name. This book is the epitome of fall. It is not only very atmospheric, but it is also a book that talks about the gods in the dark and the devil. And so that, I feel, definitely falls under the category of like spooky season November-esque reads. Definitely a book that I would recommend picking around this time of year. You can wrap yourself up on your couch like a burrito and have some tea or have some coffee, some pumpkin spice, anything. Read this book and you'll have the best time. I've also said this more times than need be, but V.E. Schwab's writing is very much lyrical. But I personally think that writing style is the best suited one for this particular story. And this is also a book that is very character driven. Plot depends on Addie and Henry, who is the male lead, in order to happen. The next book is a thriller, and it is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Now, I know this book gets a lot of mixed reviews. It is not everyone's cup of tea. However, this book is the perfect, particularly October read. This gets crazy real quick, and it is very, very dark. In Verity, we follow Lowen Ashley, who is a writer in the brink of bankruptcy, just as she receives the opportunity of a lifetime by Jeremy Crawford, who is the husband of a New York Times bestselling author called Verity Crawford. Now, the offer is to finish Verity Crawford's book series because Verity can no longer finish them herself. So Lowen goes to the Crawford's home to search through Verity's years and years of notes because Verity has basically outlined everything that she wants to do with her books, And whilst she is in her study sifting through all of these notes, she finds something incredibly dark and twisty that'll change the course of the entire story. I very much enjoy reading novels like this. I think it gives it a more interesting element, so I really enjoy it, but there are a lot of trigger warnings for this book as well. Some trigger warnings in this book include fat shaming, attempted abortion, premeditated miscarriage, child neglect and trauma, child abuse, body dysmorphia. So there are a lot of trigger warnings in this book, so just be aware of those. Are we surprised that I'm going to talk about this book here? Because I'm certainly not. I'm talking about Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This is also the perfect fall read because we have ghosts and we have witches. I have this synopsis memorized because I have talked about this book so many times here on my channel. This book follows Yadriel, who is a transgender boy and a brujo, and his family is having the toughest time accepting his real gender. Now, to prove himself as a real brujo, he, alongside his cousin Maritza, attempt to bring back a ghost from a family member. However, because your boy has a one working brain cell, instead, he brings back the school's resident bad boy Julian Diaz, who will not go back to the dead quietly until they figure out why, when, and where he got murdered. The writing in this book is immaculate as well. I enjoyed every single bit of this writing. I think Aiden Thomas not only does incredible description, but his dialogue is also top tier. In this book, the banter is just incredible. It made me laugh so many times, and the relationships in this book too are so well done because you are able to care for the characters so quickly. And it is such an amazing journey to go on because you are truly rooting for these characters, for them to get to that end game and to succeed. I also love the way that Latin culture was written in this book. You can tell that it's written by somebody who understands it and who's lived with it their entire lives. The way that particularly quinceañeras was woven into this Brujex storyline was just absolutely incredible and something unlike anything I've seen before, and you need to read this book. You truly do. The next book I have for you is a YA thriller, and it is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I read this, I think it was in July, and I really enjoyed this book. I'm not typically a fan of YA thrillers because I just think they're subpar to adult thrillers, but this book was so enjoyable and it gave me the creeps at times. I played detective, I have to admit. In this book, we follow Stevie Bell, who is a huge true crime fan. It's what she wants to do for a living. She wants to become a detective. And one day she receives an invitation to Ellingham Academy, which is this very prestigious invite-only type academy. It is only for the best of the best. Stevie decides to go there because she knows the school has a lot to offer, but also because there is this big unsolved mystery surrounding this academy where 80 years in the past, if I'm not mistaken, the wife and daughter of the founder of the school got kidnapped and murdered. So Stevie decides, out of her own two balls, to go to this school and try to solve the mystery. The only catch, though, is that Truly Devious is making a comeback present time. So this book has two different timelines. We are seeing that first 80 years ago mystery happen. We are also seeing Stevie present time trying to learn the ropes in this academy and seeing Truly Devious making a comeback. And I have not yet read the second book because I want that physical copy, because the physical copies of these books are so pretty. I cannot read these books in ebook form anymore. I need it physically. I need to touch it. And again, because it has an academy setting, it is a thriller and we are dealing with kidnappings and murdering, and again, somebody playing detective and this being true crime, it gives me the biggest fall vibes. I guess you could call this a little bit of dark academia in a sense, although it has no secret societies or cults, but it is set in a higher education setting. The next book is also a YA fantasy, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but fantasy just screams fall to me. And this next book is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. I enjoyed the hell out of this book when I first read it. This book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I love me a good retelling when it's done very well, and this book is done really well. In this book, we follow the heir of Emberfall, Prince Ren, after he is cursed by a powerful enchantress to relive the autumn of his 18th year. So right off the bat, we get that autumnal fall-esque vibe because that is the season in which this book is centered. And of course, the only way that the curse can be broken is if he manages to get a girl to fall in love with him. Now enter Harper, a girl who's had a tough life. Her father is gone and her mother is dying, and she sees a girl be attacked in the streets of Washington, D.C. and Harper, in a heroic feat, tries to save this stranger, but it all goes awfully wrong. Harper gets pulled into this magical world where she is told she needs to fall in love with this prince in order to break the curse. And it is not as simple as that, because Prince Ren has been going into a darker and darker route as the years have gone by, and he has killed every single person in his land. Everything about this book was so well done. I think the world in which it is set in is incredibly interesting, and I think it's one of the first few books, particularly around that Beauty and the Beast retelling, in which there is a normal world and then a magical world in which the girl gets pulled in that is not fae, and that to me was just really cool. And I also really liked that although Harper is supposed to save Prince Ren, the ending was really satisfactory, at least to me, because it felt realistic. The writing and the pacing and the characters and the storyline itself was really well done, and if you have not picked up this book yet, I highly recommend you do, especially if you're into YA fantasy. This is definitely a book that you would enjoy, or if you enjoy retellings in general. I will go as far as saying this: if you did not like ACOTAR, because ACOTAR is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, if you did not like ACOTAR because of the fairies, then you could definitely go into A Curse So Dark and Lonely for that Beauty and the Beast retelling aspect without the fae. Another thriller that I am going to recommend you guys read this fall is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. In this book, we follow Sydney Green, who has been born and raised in Brooklyn. She has lived in this apartment her entire life, so she is very familiar with the area. She is very familiar with her neighbors, and they all get along incredibly well. However, Sydney starts thinking that she's going insane once condos start appearing out of nowhere and for sale signs start going up like crazy. Shops that she went into every day are closing or the staff is changing, and she doesn't really understand why. And enter Theo, who is the male lead in this book, and he is seeing the same things she is seeing. So they come together in order to try and solve this mystery that is happening in this neighborhood. It is very psychological. It talks about gentrification, and Alyssa Cole also weaves a lot of historical elements into this book that are not only entertaining but are also educational for the reader, and that aspect of it I enjoyed quite a lot. This book was just such a wild ride because it truly messed with my mind, and I was just trying to figure it out as I went, and I was wrong every single turn, which is always, at least in my eyes, it's always a great thing with thrillers. Also because the theme that this book goes into are so important and they are so well developed that it makes you mad, and it actually touches you and it reaches you and it makes the reader think, which again are some of my favorite elements in thrillers. So safe to say that I really enjoyed this. Pick it up and don't be fooled because this looks tiny, but this book is almost 400 pages. So don't be fooled because substance. And last but certainly not least, in this fall book recommendations video, I have The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I have not finished this book yet. I am exactly 50% in, but this is definitely a book that I feel you should read around this time of year, particularly October spooky season, because this book not only contains a lot of trigger warnings, but this book is also very dark in its nature because its purpose is to talk about how gruesome and how mentally jarring war is. So this is not a light read. In this book, we follow Rin, who is an orphaned peasant girl who has been mistreated her entire life. And once her foster parents tell Rin that she is being forced to marry, Rin starts working her ass off to not make that happen. Once she aces a Keju, she is now accepted into the Sign Guard Academy, which is the most prestigious out of all of them. And once she gets there, Rin is targeted by her classmates because of her color, her poverty, and her gender. Driven to desperation, she finds out that she possesses a very unearthly and uncommon power, which is shamanism. It is an art that is dead in this world. Very few people possess it. Because of that, she learns that the gods everyone thought dead are not entirely dead, and they may be closer than everyone thinks. Not only that, but a third Poppy War is fast approaching, and Rin may be the only hope that the Empire has to end this war. I'm just going to say, be on the lookout for my Poppy War reading vlog, as it's coming. And it is worth noting, this book is an adult fantasy historical fiction. It is not YA. I don't know why people have thought that this is YA in the past, but it is not in the slightest. And the trigger warnings in this book include rape and mutilation, torture, self-harm, domestic abuse, verbal abuse, drug use and abuse, and so many more. But if I do dare say, I like that those elements are in this story because they are necessary to show how dark and crazy and gruesome and mentally jarring, again, war is. And that is the purpose of this book. This book is not supposed to be a light read, so you definitely need to go into this book with that mindset. And those are all the books that I have for you guys today, those books that you need to read this fall. I think that makes a total of 8 books. I don't know how to count, but I think that makes about 8 books. If you have any recommendations on books I should pick up this fall, definitely let me know down below. I do have other books that I own that I feel would fit this category, but I haven't read yet, so I don't feel comfortable putting them in a recommendations video because, again, I haven't read them yet. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. You can also subscribe down below for more book content, and also ring that notification bell so you get notified every single time I upload a video. You can also follow me on all of my social medias, which are always linked down below. Again, I have a Twitter, Goodreads, Instagram, and an Amazon wishlist in case you want to support me and my channel and gift me a book. And yeah, I love y'all, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.